You'll never believe what happened when I simply wore a tank top on my own lawn. HOA Karen, the kind of neighbor who seems to live for controlling everyone else's life, decided that my casual afternoon attire was a threat to the neighborhood. It all began on a warm, sunny Saturday. I had just stepped outside to enjoy some fresh air, wearing a comfortable tank top and shorts, completely minding my own business. Birds were chirping, a gentle breeze was blowing, and everything seemed perfectly normal. But in HOA land, normal is often the enemy. Within minutes, I spotted Karen approaching from the corner of my eye. She was already frowning, holding her clipboard like it was a sword, ready to deliver judgment. I knew from past encounters that this was not going to be a casual chat. The tension in the air was palpable, and I felt a mix of frustration and amusement. I wondered how someone could get so worked up about a tank top. As Karen got closer, she started yelling about community standards and decency violations. I stopped walking and turned to face her, calmly explaining that I was on my own property and had every right to wear whatever I wanted. But Karen wouldn't listen. Her voice rose, and she started pacing back and forth, pointing at me in the lawn, accusing me of disrespecting the neighborhood rules. I held up my hands, trying to defuse the situation, saying, "Karen, I'm just enjoying my day. I haven't harmed anyone." But she seemed deaf to reason. Around this time, a few neighbors peeked from their windows and doors, watching the unfolding drama with wide eyes. Some whispered to each other, clearly recognizing Karen's typical over-the-top behavior. Despite my calm explanation, Karen took a step closer, crossing the invisible line into my property. This was the moment I realized she had gone too far. Trespassing is a serious matter, and it was clear she didn't respect boundaries. I reached for my phone and began recording, knowing that video evidence would be critical if things escalated. Karen, oblivious to the legal consequences, continued lecturing me about proper attire and neighborhood appearance. I couldn't help but roll my eyes slightly. The absurdity of the situation was almost comical, yet nerve-wracking at the same time. Here was a grown adult trying to enforce rules that didn't even apply to her, all because she felt entitled to control everyone else's life. I decided it was time to escalate responsibly. I called the local police to report a trespass in progress. While waiting for them to arrive, Karen continued ranting, her voice growing louder and more frantic. She began pacing around the lawn, waving her clipboard and pointing fingers like she was in charge of the world. The neighbors were now fully attentive, some stepping outside to witness the confrontation. It was a scene straight out of a sitcom, yet with real tension because legal boundaries were being crossed. I kept my distance, recording every action, making sure to stay calm and collected. Karen, now realizing that I wasn't intimidated, started gesturing wildly, her face red with anger. She tried to lecture me about community decency again, but this time, I ignored the yelling and focused on documenting her actions. Moments later, the police arrived. They approached calmly and asked Karen to step back onto the public sidewalk. At first, she resisted, claiming she had every right to lecture me and enforce neighborhood rules. The officers explained that while her concerns about community appearance might be valid, she had no legal right to step onto someone else's property without permission. Karen's expression changed from arrogance to panic almost instantly. The neighbors watched as the officer read her the trespassing laws she had just violated. I stayed calm, letting the recording capture everything. Karen realized, too late, that she was now the one in trouble. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on anyone. Here was the woman who had tried to intimidate me for wearing a tank top, now facing potential legal consequences herself. The officers guided her off the lawn, and I could hear her muttering complaints about unfair treatment as she walked away. After Karen was escorted by the police, I took a deep breath and looked around. The neighbors who had watched the incident unfold approached, some expressing shock, others expressing quiet satisfaction that justice had been served. One neighbor even said, "Finally, someone held her accountable." I thanked them and reminded them that standing up for your rights doesn't have to involve aggression. It's about remaining calm, documenting evidence, and letting the law do its work. This incident reinforced a lesson I had learned long ago. Know your rights, and don't let entitled individuals push you around. It also reminded me why I started HOA Tales YouTube stories, to share unbelievable real-life HOA stories with viewers like you, so you know exactly how to navigate similar situations. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, comment your thoughts, and share it with friends. You'll be amazed at how often ordinary situations can spiral into outrageous HOA drama. And trust me, this is just the beginning. Stay tuned, because the story doesn't end here. We'll dive deeper into Karen's actions, the police's response, and the aftermath that left the neighborhood buzzing. Real HOA chaos, real consequences, and real lessons. That's what HOA Tales YouTube stories is all about. After the police had arrived and escorted Karen back to the sidewalk, I realized the confrontation was far from over. While she was technically off my property, her presence still cast a shadow over the neighborhood. Karen, not one to accept defeat easily, continued pacing near my lawn, muttering threats about reporting me to the HOA board for unacceptable behavior. I stayed calm, knowing that she had already crossed the line into illegal territory and that the police had witnessed everything. With my phone recording, I addressed her firmly but politely. "Karen, I'm on my own property. You have no right to intimidate or harass me. At this point, some neighbors came outside, curious about the commotion. One of them, Mrs. Lopez, an older woman who has lived here for decades, shook her head in disbelief. "I've never seen anyone so dramatic over a tank top," she whispered. Another neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, smiled and said, "Finally, someone held her accountable." Their presence added both pressure and validation. Karen, realizing that multiple people were now witnessing her antics, became more desperate. She waved her hands in frustration, clearly unsure how to respond. "I am just enforcing the community rules," she yelled, though no one could see any rule that applied to my tank top on my private lawn. The situation escalated further when Karen tried to step back onto my property, hoping to intimidate me into compliance. This was the moment I decided to let the law handle things. I calmly told her, "If you step one more foot onto my property, I will have no choice but to call the police again." She paused, realizing that her bluff had been called. The officers, who were still present and observing from a distance, nodded discreetly, confirming that I was right to stand my ground. This moment highlighted a key lesson for all viewers. Knowing your rights and staying calm under pressure can prevent situations from spiraling out of control. As Karen continued her tirade, I gave a brief commentary to the camera. "Notice how entitlement blinds people. She believes she can control others because of an HOA title, but in reality, the law is clear. Trespassing is illegal, no matter how righteous you feel." This recording would later serve as both evidence and a way to educate viewers about real-life HOA conflicts. Karen, now visibly frustrated and confused, tried to argue with the police, but their response was firm. "Ma'am, you have no legal authority to enter private property without permission. Please step back," she argued, insisting that community standards gave her rights she did not have. The officers remained unyielding, demonstrating that the law takes precedence over personal interpretation of HOA rules. Throughout this ordeal, I maintained a calm demeanor, occasionally looking at the camera to address the audience directly. See, viewers, the key here is patience, evidence, and understanding your rights. HOA drama can escalate quickly, but if you stay calm and record everything, you protect yourself and teach others the importance of boundaries. Karen's face, flushed with anger, now reflected frustration, disbelief, and panic all at once. Her body language screamed defeat, though her words tried desperately to maintain authority. Watching someone unravel in real time was surreal yet educational, offering an unfiltered look at how entitlement can clash with reality. At one point, Karen attempted to pull out her phone, presumably to record me or claim some kind of evidence, but the police reminded her that any attempt to record private property without consent could be problematic legally. The tension in the air was thick, and the neighbors could sense that this was a turning point. Children playing in nearby yards paused to watch, adding an awkward but almost cinematic touch to the drama. I whispered to the camera, "This is exactly why HOA conflicts become viral. The mix of entitlement, ignorance, and blatant law-breaking creates unforgettable situations." After about 20 minutes, the police had firmly established that Karen had no right to confront me on my property. They issued a trespass warning and explained potential legal consequences if she returned without permission. Karen, realizing she was now caught in a web of her own making, stormed off the property, muttering about injustice. The neighbors watching quietly applauded, some laughing at the absurdity of the scenario. I turned back to the camera and said, "And that, viewers, is how you handle a trespassing HOA Karen. Calm, collected, and with law on your side." But the story doesn't end there. Later that day, I received multiple calls and messages from neighbors who had witnessed the event. They shared their own experiences with HOA Karen, revealing a pattern of overreach and unnecessary drama. It became clear that this confrontation was only a small part of her larger, ongoing attempts to control everyone in the neighborhood. I decided to use this opportunity to educate viewers about recognizing HOA overreach, documenting incidents, and protecting personal property. My advice, repeated for emphasis, was simple: know your rights, record everything, remain calm, and involve law enforcement if necessary. Most importantly, don't let entitlement intimidate you. As I prepared to wind down the day, I reflected on the lessons learned. This incident reaffirmed why I started HOA Tales YouTube stories, to showcase unbelievable HOA stories, provide real-life examples of overreach, and teach viewers practical steps for handling conflicts. It also reminded me that humor and patience can coexist with firmness. While the situation was stressful, maintaining composure turned a potentially escalating drama into an educational and even somewhat entertaining scenario. By the end of the day, the neighborhood had resumed normalcy, Karen had retreated, and I had gained both peace of mind and an incredible story to share. Remember, viewers, if you enjoyed this story, hit that subscribe button, like this video, drop a comment about your own HOA nightmare, and share it with friends. HOA Tales YouTube Stories brings you the wildest, most unbelievable neighborhood stories, and this tank top confrontation is a perfect example of why standing your ground matters. Justice isn't always immediate, but it's inevitable when you know your rights and take the right steps. The following days were filled with a mix of relief and reflection. HOA Karen had learned her lesson the hard way, but the neighborhood was still buzzing about the incident. Several neighbors approached me, expressing both shock and support. Mrs. Lopez, still shaking her head, said, "I can't believe she actually tried to tell you what to wear on your own lawn." I smiled and replied, "It's crazy, but that's the reality of living near someone obsessed with control." Through these conversations, I realized how common such conflicts are and how important it is to document and address them responsibly. A few days after the confrontation, the HOA board sent out a vague email about community standards. Reading it, I couldn't help but chuckle. It was clear that Karen had overstepped, but the board seemed more interested in avoiding liability than enforcing any new rules. I decided to respond politely, outlining the trespassing incident, the police involvement, and the importance of respecting property boundaries. This moment highlighted a key lesson. While HOAs can create rules, they cannot enforce them in violation of the law. As I shared this story on HOA YouTube Stories, I emphasized to viewers how critical it is to remain informed and to always know your rights. Meanwhile, the video footage I had recorded became an educational tool. I edited clips showing the exact moment Karen crossed the boundary line, her frantic gestures, and the police calmly taking control of the situation. I added on-screen captions to explain why each action mattered legally and socially. The goal was to provide both entertainment and practical guidance. As I uploaded the video, I included the following text overlay: "Stand your ground, know your rights, and never let entitlement intimidate you." This message resonated with viewers immediately. Comments flooded in from people who had faced similar situations, thanking me for sharing real-life examples and providing a roadmap for handling invasive HOA behavior. Reflecting on the incident, I realized there were multiple takeaways. First, documenting every interaction is essential. Karen's actions might have been dismissed without clear video evidence. Second, involving authorities in a calm and professional manner can prevent escalation. Third, community support matters. Knowing that neighbors were observing and could back up my account gave me confidence and credibility. These points were reiterated throughout the video, ensuring that viewers not only understood the story but also learned strategies to protect themselves. To further engage the audience, I added personal commentary throughout the video. Notice how entitlement blinds HOA members. They believe their opinion is law, but in reality, personal property rights and legal boundaries exist for everyone. Education is your strongest defense. I encouraged viewers to share their own HOA encounters in the comments, creating a dialogue that expanded beyond just this single story. The result was a vibrant community discussion about boundaries, accountability, and neighborhood etiquette. Many viewers related to the frustration, while others found the situation humorous in its absurdity. As the story reached its conclusion, I addressed the outcome directly. Karen had been formally warned by the police for trespassing. While she avoided criminal charges, the public embarrassment and legal reminder made it clear that her overreach was unacceptable. The HOA board, meanwhile, remained largely silent, likely reassessing how to manage similar situations in the future. This ending emphasized a crucial lesson: legal authority and common sense outweigh personal interpretation of HOA rules. The narrative served as both a cautionary tale and a reassurance for anyone facing similar challenges. I closed the video with a final message to viewers. Remember, standing up for yourself doesn't mean being aggressive. It means knowing your rights, staying calm, and using the law wisely. Your property, your rules, and your peace of mind are worth defending. I reminded them once again to subscribe to HOA YouTube Stories, like the video, leave a comment sharing their own experiences, and share it with friends. I wanted the audience to leave not only entertained but also empowered. The mix of drama, real-life tension, and legal clarity made the story compelling and educational at the same time. By the end of the week, the video had already started gaining traction. Viewers appreciated the detailed narration, step-by-step breakdown of the confrontation, and the practical advice embedded within the story. Comments poured in like, "I can't believe how calm you stayed," or "Thank you for showing how to handle HOA Karen types without escalating." The engagement reinforced why documenting such experiences on HOA YouTube Stories is valuable. It's more than just storytelling. It's about educating, empowering, and building a community that understands its rights. Finally, reflecting on the entire experience, I realized that this story would not only entertain but also serve as a guide. Future HOA conflicts could be prevented if neighbors understood boundaries, property rights, and the importance of remaining calm under pressure. I signed off on the video with encouragement for viewers: stay vigilant, know your rights, and don't let anyone intimidate you on your own property. And remember, the law is always on your side if you act responsibly. So, if you enjoyed this unbelievable HOA story, make sure to subscribe to HOA YouTube Stories. Hit that like button, comment your thoughts, and share this video with friends. From trespassing Karens to absurd neighborhood drama, we bring you the most shocking and entertaining stories from real life. Stand tall, know your rights, and always be prepared for the unexpected, because in HOA territory, anything can happen.